Alright, Travis Wayne Goodsell. We're going to drill in this hundreds of billions that the church has been hoarding, not giving to the poor. If you can see, I'm wearing my post-impeachment shirt. Let's see, get the date in there. Remember that day? Remember? Went right over Adam-on-Diamond and Independence, Missouri. The one that's coming on the 8th of April, not the 6th of April, Mormons, the 8th of April. That's the big date that all religions have been symbolizing, and they didn't quite know it. And it's not the crescent moon, it's the partial eclipse as seen from the Middle East. On that specific day, 20 years ago from 2024. But you gotta watch my whole videos. You can't just pick and choose. Alright, so hundreds of billions. I've discussed how they're stealing from children and the elderly and those who are disabled because they're demanding tithing in order to participate in the temple. CEO Nelson had gone on conference over the pulpit in public and said that tithing must be fully paid in order to go through the temple to be worthy. Paying tithing in order to be worthy. Thus the poor, who have to decide, well, do I eat or do I pay tithing for some future thing that may not produce results? Just like insurance. There's no guarantee you're going to get a return on your investment. That's the definition of gambling, Travis. Yes. And so the church practices gambling, forces it upon Mormons. So it's not really gambling, it's just protection money of a criminal organization. But hundreds of billions. They won't give charity because all the people who need it, they're forced to work. The bishops require them to work. So typically they say, oh, we'll come clean the building on Saturday. It's our turn to clean the building, and I expect you to be there, and I'll have the person notify me that you were there. And I've told the story about how when I was in charge of cleaning the building and making arrangements for people to help come clean, I was contacted by the Relief Society of one of the other wards, and she said, there's going to be some people who are coming to clean the building, just let me know who shows up. And I come around the corner, come down the hall, and there's an elderly man, a bit overweight, in a wheelchair. He's got an oxygen tube hooked up, and he's got a drip line also hooked up to him. And I said, no, you're not working. I'm telling that you came and you did the work, you're not working. He brought his family with him, little kids, child slave labor in the church, to also do it. But yeah, no, he was staying right where he was at. It's just unbelievable. And the bishops have this concept of temporary. That man, as one example, isn't temporarily disabled. That's permanent. That's for life. And for the church to have bishops say, you have to pay your tithing, you have to labor with your bare hands, get all sweaty, and in order to get temporary assistance. And it's like they justify it saying, we want people to be self-reliant. The whole self-reliance program of welfare. Because we don't want to create a welfare state. We don't want people dependent on the church. We want people to become self-reliant. That's the word. And it's just sickening that they hate human beings so much that they refuse to give of their substance. And I can understand the struggle of real legitimate charities who try their best to give out food and clothing to the poor, but they have to keep doing it, and they rely on donations. And so if they don't get donations, they don't have anything to give. And so it's a struggle because there's such great need. And the church just sits back and collects hundreds of billions of dollars that they're just sitting on as they claim, oh yeah, we're charitable. It's just sickening. A church fooling the Mormons that they speak the word of Jesus Christ, that everything they do is under orders, direct orders of Jesus Christ. And anybody with half a brain, what movie was that from? You only have half a brain. I think it's a Steven Seagal movie. One of his earlier works. I'll have to do a marathon of that someday. But anybody can read the stories of Jesus from the New Testament. How he healed people. How he, his apostles were the ones who created a counter economy within the Roman economy. The all things in common. And so it's not just you render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, unto God what is God's. The church twists the scriptures to justify ripping people off, ripping Mormons off, to steal their money and accumulate massive amounts of wealth. For what? Some future kingdom of God that Mormons are being led to believe is going to happen? And so with charity, I can understand the frustration of having to rely on donations to provide food over and over and over and over and over again, because people under our economy can't make it. Trump touts, the economy's the best ever, because he's referring to the stock market being the highest ever. That's because the corporations like the church are using it to make more money for themselves and not giving to the poor in America. And then he says, I've created all these jobs. Well, yeah, but how much are those jobs paying? Are those people who are working there able to support their whole family in a good house? Not some run-down ghetto? The ghettos here in Utah are expensive, over $1,000 rent. And yet the state of Utah is following the example of their church, who dominates the land here, to increase taxes, to hurt the poor. specifically designed to hurt the poor, because the taxes that they're wanting to make are on food. They've already gotten a tax bill on food. Now they're going through passing a further tax on food. For me, for example, my cost of living has gone up. I'm poorer under Trump because the amount of money that I receive is going down comparatively to the amount of costs that I have to spend. And so the amount of money I get to spend is going down. Waiting for the mailman. And so it's atrocious here in Utah. Utah refuses to create a living wage, and they are forced to do a minimum wage of the federal level. They won't do their own for Utah based on Utah's economy. And so the real cost of living in Utah is at least $25 an hour now. I had estimated $23 an hour back in 2000s. And it's just sickening that the church, as the poor are continuing to suffer, pleading for help, as Utah had Operation Rio Grande to punish the poor, they're now getting police officers, pulling them off the streets, forcing them into the shelters, but the shelters are kicking them back to the streets because they're full. And that they're abusive. They're concentration camps. You have to be ID'd, you have to go through their caseworker program, to go searching for a job at McDonald's where they pay you less than the minimum wage, and less, well, they pay the minimum wage, but they pay less than a living wage, and there's no way nobody can live on McDonald's jobs wages. And the government refuses to regulate business, to say, hey, you guys can't do this to America. You have to pay your employees based on your society's economy. And that requires the companies to actually know how much it costs to live. But they know how to do it. How? Because they have to live. It's not complicated when you have to live. They have to buy food, they have to pay for housing, they have to pay for clothing. They know what it costs them to live. So why then are they punishing their employees? Why then are they punishing their customers? Why is the government not stepping in and saying, hey, you can't do this? And the church, they know, and yet they're refusing to give. What needs to be done with charity is you don't want to string people along in a habitual, systemic ring of poverty. You need to give assistance that will pull them out of poverty. You can't just give them a fish. You can't just teach them how to fish. You can't just give them a fishing rod. You've got to provide the lake full of good, healthy fish that remains full year-round, so that they can take their education, they can take the tools and equipment, then they can be self-reliant. That's what our government, that's what the church refuses to acknowledge and refuses to give in assistance. They instead begrudgingly give fish on a regular basis and complain that they have to continually give fish. Why can't these guys pull themselves up by their own bootstraps? We need to deter them from getting free handouts. We need to punish them. We need to lock them up for being homeless. It's just sickening. The mindset of such evil. And those who pretend to be speaking as spokesmen for Jesus Christ. Just sickening. I would like to swear and curse and use profane language. So, alright. So do you understand now how devastating this is for the church to be exposed as having so much money? The percentage I had previously estimated when the 32 billion was exposed last year was 0.05% given to charity. Now, 0.0015, maybe less in charity. It's non-existent. Just sickening. Okay.